Hello everyone, Bridget Casey here for the April 2023 release video hop. I'm so excited to share a couple of projects made with these amazing products. We are using the Watercolor Roses and Delightful Day today primarily. I will give you a little sneak peek of what I chose in my package. I got the ColourPop Hello. I also chose the Prim Peonies outline stamp and die set. Absolutely gorgeous with amazing sentiments. This I'm super excited about. The Botanical Wreath Builder, having the stamp wheel will make building a wreath so easy. Delightful Day, the cross hatches in this line up, so you align once and stamp your floral by rotating the stamp wheel. And there's a die set. You can also use that separate if you don't have the stamp wheel yet. I also chose Sunrise in the Park. For my dies, I got the Bird Bath layering die set, the Chestnut Tree layering die set. Here comes the Sun hot foil plate, and finally the Watercolor Roses stencil and die set. Now we're going to go ahead and show the inks. I'm using Martian Terrain with the addition of Coral Bliss and Peach Perfect. Lovely combo. And then I'm using some inks from Nature's Wonders for my greens. We now have the stamp wheel out so we can stencil, and the stamp wheel center alignment guides are new as well. So I'm going to show you the A2 one. If you put it in this orientation with a lettering on the bottom, you get a portrait card. If the lettering is over on the right hand side, you will get a landscape card. So it's wonderful to help you align either way you want to use an A2 panel. You simply slip it in the corner, push it down onto the photopolymer, it will stick. Then you take your card base and you will put that in the L shape that is left. I was a hair off, so my crafty OCD took over. So I'm going ahead and just adjusting it. Now, at this point, you can take your center alignment guide out if you would like. I left mine in case I went over my stencil. Since this is a layering stencil set, there is a layering guide showing the colors used, the completed image, and each color in the opening of each of the stencils. And it will show you each step, what you should have completed in that step. We will now move on, and since on stencil 1, the flowers are not together, I'm going to show you a little trick with the die. So you see they're separate right there, the two flowers. So you take your die and put it in about the orientation that you think you would like to have it. Then you take your stencil and lay it over top and twist and turn until it's in place. Hold onto your stencil, slide out the die, and now you know your arrangement will fit perfectly. We're going to begin with Pastel Sunrise. I switched from using a mini blending tool to a small as this opening was pretty big. And then I'm going to align that right there, that little bump. And I'm going to blend on Canyon Clay on the top flower. I should have kept my paper the whole time I was blending. Live and learn. So this one, I'm also using Canyon Clay on the bottom. I don't know about you guys, but I am a wild ink blender. And I'm just lining up with that same indentation. Now using Coral Bliss on this flower. Now these two on stencil 2, they are lined up together. So you align once and then color. So I don't know why I sectioned this out. I am using burnt red on both of them. I was just showing you there that's why I kept my alignment guide in place. If I went off my paper, I would go onto the guide. Now I'm aligning this into place. We'll use mahogany bark, and burnt red for the top flower. Now we're going to go ahead and get our leaves all perfectly lined up. And once they're aligned, you just push down, it sticks right there, and you can blend your heart out. And I tended to move it a little bit. It's aligned so that you can get the 3 flowers, but on one step, if you were just a little bit off, you may have to adjust it to have the perfect alignment, which just takes a second and is super duper easy. Here I added marshland and sea forest for a little definition, and then I will come in and I'm going to add sea forest and mangrove root on this step. Now there are some spots, I'm trying to align it so that all of the spots are good so that I can just ink blend, but there is one spot in the top right hand side that is showing white where it shouldn't be. So we will adjust before I get to that point. In the next card, I'm going to show you why it's so wonderful that we can align these points separately. It just makes it easier, especially if you go and create your own arrangement, which we do in the next card. So I'm just making sure those 2 points over there are aligned where they're supposed to be. And I'm only worrying about the section that I'm doing at that point. So our stenciling is now done. I'm putting on a transparency so I can align the sentiment from Delightful Day. I'll pick it up with my flip plate, flip it over, and put some obsidian ink on there. I should have used my stamp conditioning eraser. That's why I showed you the stamp conditioning eraser. So I will have to stamp twice with my obsidian to have a perfect image. And there we go. There's our first project done. So now we're going to move on, and I'm just going wild and just starting with the first flower here, and we're using Pastel Sunrise on this one. And then on this one here, we're going to use Peach Perfect. And I'm just trying to align this without having to do a mask, and this is Pastel Sunrise. Now we're going to go back down to the bottom, and I'm using Canyon Clay down at the bottom. And I'm using Canyon Clay up at the top. In the center, I'm going to use the Coral Bliss again so that the flower is just a little bit different in between the two. And this is what I was talking about. You can build your own bouquet. So now we're using burnt red on both of the flowers there. And then I'll have to move it and go up here. And I'm just looking at that point right there. And I'm putting some burnt red on to finish that. Now I'm aligning my bear paw in the bottom part with mahogany bark for both of them. And then we'll adjust it and just do the bear paw at the top with mahogany bark. Now I did go a little wild. There's a mark on my card, but I'm just pushing through. I have marshland right here that I'm putting on. And I do switch over to my small blending tool. And then I saw I could get that in there. And so now I'm playing, this is where it would normally fit if I just did the 2 flowers. But now I'm going to try to see if I can fit in some extra leaves, just going, just being creative. So I was able to, and now we're going to go and we're going to add the final layer to our leaves. So this is where, because I'm creating my own arrangement, it's good that I can put the pieces down and I can just add color where I want to, meaning the leaves were spread out enough on the original stencil so they're not too close that I can't kind of create my own bouquet, which I love when you can do that. So I did have a couple of spots I'm showing you there that I went rogue with the blending. So we're going to trim down to 3 3/4 by 5. So that's going to be our card. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our card back in. And I was hoping the sentiment would just align perfectly, but it was a little too high. So I took it off, brought back my transparency to align it, getting it perfectly in place, pick it up with a flip plate, obsidian ink, stamp, and then obsidian ink, stamp, and my card is perfect. So now I'm happy, except, I had some whoopsies there. So antique gold splatter to the rescue. I wasn't getting enough splatter there, so I actually dumped some out of the bottle, and then that's why you see the big splatters. So now we have our card bases to put our panels on. So I got that first one all set, just taking off the double-sided adhesive. And then I noticed it was a little rough on the edge, so I wanted a nice clean edge. So I trimmed that off. Perfect. Card's all set, ready to go. This one, we're going to do some foam tape. And because I'm nervous that it's still wet, I'm picking it up and holding it and putting the foam tape on the back. What we do to make our cards. I didn't want to hit it with a heat tool, so I just kind of, played with the foam tape there for a minute, and it was just perfectly fine. I'm centering that on an A2 card base, and we have our 2 cards. So, and you can still see it a little bit, but it's not as evident. So I hope you had a good time today seeing how you can use the stencil as it was intended and how you can change it up a little bit and make your own beautiful creation. Until next time, happy crafting, my friends.